Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and of course, all of you who are able to take part in this show live on YouTube or Twitch, or if you could even find me on Facebook, can participate live as we do this podcast about tabletop role playing games. And I thought I would do something, this is highly specific. We often talk about Vampire the Masquerade, and there's other games in the White Wolf genre, werewolf, mage, changeling, and other games, but we're going to talk about vampire. And I think one of the questions we never really talk about is, what do you do in this game? If it's not Dungeons and Dragons, then what else do we do? Kind of came up as a last minute flavor goal concept, but I do that on this show anyway. So, and I thought we could learn from this game and other games where just fighting the bad guy isn't really the goal. And how do we get there? So, of course, guys, get your snacks, put your feet up, and we'll get right into it. Okay, the version we're going to look through today is Vampire 20. It is the version 20, or the 20th year since Vampire came out. There are many other versions, but I feel like in general this applies, and there's some advice in here, and of course some personal anecdotes that I think will fly in the face of some people who are extreme fans of Vampire. But anyway, of course, this is an image in a chapter of the book. The book is very thick. It goes through. So let me get my chat up here. There we go. Hey, Spook, what's going on? And hello, everyone else that is able to find the channel. This is one of the chapters in this game. Artwork. Cool. Very artful. Looks like a Setite vampire, if I'm not mistaken. But all of the vampire books have a storytelling chapter, best practices, of course. And we're going to talk about what it considers best practices, and then we can translate that to other games. Or if you are a fan of Vampire, like, what does that mean for you? So, of course, here we talk, this is an entire part about playing Vampire, both the internal struggle and the external conflicts that happen in the game, and what to draw upon. So this part is basically best practices, right? Like, consider all the players' clans that they pick from, because if each player is picking from a clan or a tribe or something, whatever their bloodline is, then clearly they are clearly giving you an indicator as to which clans exist in your location. I specifically desire to pick a city that everyone is familiar with. You can really just pick your home city, but most of us we have such large scale players that we game online and around the world, then maybe picking a city that no one is familiar with, and then you can kind of do a little Google foo and search for a city, or a city that maybe you game with your fellow friends and family, and you're familiar with that city. And it's always cool to do that, because there are elements of everyone's city that either we haven't really, we remember from our younger days that might have changed, or now, mind you, this is a dark world, and a dark Gothic world. So no matter the reality of the city you live in, remember, this is fantasy. And so there may be dark tidings in your city where things have changed a bit and is and still held onto, or maybe it now has a dark gothic theme to it that normally it wouldn't have. So for example, um in the Marvel comics, there's Daredevil. Daredevil is a red vigilante. He's got a TV show out now that just got rebooted called Devil Born. I mean, yeah, Born Again, and he patrols Hell's Kitchen in New York City. Now, the Hell's Kitchen of today is nothing like the Hell's Kitchen of the comic books, which is more like a Marvel's version of a Gotham City. But it's the same thing, right? For your own city, you can put something dark and twisted and mysterious in your own home city that might not normally be there. Um, Here we have a couple of ideas where it talks about the first fleeting glimpse, and this is and you get together with your players and you start coming up with some ideas about where it's going to be, who are the power players, and definitely take a look at the players' creation of their characters, right? If one person has stealth and they want to hide in shadows, and give them shadows to hide in. If there's a player that built their character around combat, then find some places and maybe some conflict for them to roll some dice and have some fights, things like that. Um, this part, a dark and deadly world, absolutely. Make a world that if the players were not there, it would still be dark and deadly. Dark alleys. Layer on a subtext of decadence and darkness in multiple places in your city that you pick. Now, the meaning like the rich and powerful and the wealthy in your city or location, what do they do? And then add something dark in there. Maybe in the lowest dregs of civilization in your city, what do they do and what darkness happens there? And it may not be something that the people even understand or delve in. Like they don't have, you can add cultists, but they don't have to. Maybe there's a dark power that's been feeding on the people, or disease is starting to run rampant. One of We'll get into the like flashback scene and cut scenes and whatnot. But in my game with our players, we used to do a lot of radio and television cutscenes to talk about what's happening in the city. Like, it's been the fourth week and trash hasn't been picked up and stuff like that. And to kind of give a little bit of a little flavor. So in a deadly world, dark and deadly world, here they talk about the extinction of virtue, and that uh, there are fewer people with a very high level of ethics and morality. And so the people that have ethics and morality, that have faith, that are nice, are the rare ones, and they are the shining light in the world of darkness. Um, and Here we have some examples of telling stories, and they give you some like blood and money. Life is cheap, and desperate people resort to violence out of frustration, fear, hatred, and greed. Crime is ever present. No more good guys. The world has lost its heroes. They were caught in sex scandals or taking bribes, or perhaps they fell victim to endemic urban violence. Things like that. There's no strong leadership. Haunted houses. Humanity is rotting from within, continuing a sad, slow decline, and symbols of its decay are everywhere in the weathered facades of Gothic churches and granite office buildings. This one about haunted houses, like, yes, of course, you can have real haunted houses, but there may also be, it's a good excuse to have various regions in your city to be empty, and for various reasons. Maybe people are suspicious of the place, or it's constantly being constructed and reconstructed. The money dried up in the let me take off my headset here. Sorry. Maybe the money's dried up in a project, and so now there's like homeless people living there, and there's graffiti all over it. You know, there's quarantines in the area. Maybe there was a weather event or disease or something, and the people blocked it off. Maybe just general like everyone avoids one or more places in your city, and that's a great place to have some of these conflicts and showdowns and things like that. That where for some reason to the south, people just don't live there or don't want to live there, and the people who do live there, you know, they they see things in the dark. Try to see some of your comments. I love that stuff. Yeah. So Spook says, when I first started playing online, I would post a paper once a week with hooks and dead end leads. Yeah. And so, you know what's funny about that? Sorry, you're the idea of creating dead end leads. Why do players attach themselves to stuff like that? It's so weird, right? Like it's like, oh yeah, and they found a I don't know a giant alligator in the sewer, and that was like a throw off line, and all of a sudden players just latched themselves onto it. So weird, but it's cool. Um, Here's a little title here where it says "Written in Blood," and it says the Chronicle. The word Chronicle is the equivalent of like an adventure or campaign. The Chronicle is the overall story that we're going to tell with the players, and we'll get into some examples of their chronicles and what you can do and steal from it. Or I'm sorry, borrow heavily, an homage. Anyway, Written in Blood, it says the Chronicle is the overall story that the storyteller wishes to tell with the players. It is made up of a series of smaller stories in which the player characters are the central figures. And in other words, you could revisit this over and over again. So instead of saying, I want to run a campaign that's 30 sessions long, you can play one shots, a 3-shot, a 10-shot, go back to a 1-shot, all under one chronicle, which might be in the old vampire books. They would have like it would be like New York by night, Los Angeles by night, London by night. And it was a whole book of that city, and you could keep running adventures in those cities, telling individual stories, small stories, long-term stories, things like that. And here they have a few examples, but we're going to go to their bullet points. And here are possibilities for chronicles and the themes they can explore. And some of these explorations are various combinations of internal exploration and external exploration. Internal, the fighting off the desire to drink blood. You have to live at night. Your lifespan has expanded past, possibly into and past the ages of your mortal siblings and friends and family, things like that. So here we have search for hidden secrets, and this may be one about acquiring or finding out information about ancient books or texts, or uncovering the ancient vampires that have been asleep for so long, or it very much into archaeological, cultist kind of things. Maybe even uncovering murders and whatnot. Here we have another one called "Live Free or Die." That this one is a favorite, especially from back in the 80s and 90s, and all the gothic emo thing. It's like the man is holding us down, and if we don't live free, you might as well die. And it's a constant like for players who want to play the um sorry, I've got two kitties, so you may hear some of their noises. You may have players who want to fight the man, and that's the theme of it. And even as a vampire, where we're like, hey, we're vampire badasses, but there may be some power struggles above them, and that may be the theme of your game. The Cold Company of Sharks. This one says the characters are high society vampires. Oops. Scheming to gain power and status among the what's called the Ancillae or NCA and elders of the city. Power, politics, intrigue, betrayal are the order of the day. As rivals welcome one another with cordial smiles while their underlings wage a silent, ruthless war on the city and city streets. And this is a the we are street level anarchists fighting against the man, and this one called they call it the Cold Company of Sharks. The smiling in the face but stabbing people behind the back because they're rich and powerful are two of the really most common vampire themes, where the players have manipulate the fire department, the all of the city services, police, fire, medical, urban development, the media, and homeless, that kind of thing. The tax base, whatnot. While they are, having parties and smiling at each other, understanding that they both want to kill each other or at least take each other down a peg or two, and that's very common. I'm only kidding. Here's one, No Place Called Home, where the players are either outside of their city or the city that they once remembered doesn't exist any longer. Hey, kitty, come on, you too. It's dark one is Brutus, and the lighter color one is Scarlet. Here we have another type of chronicle, which is the Conquistadors. Here we go. This chronicle tells of the triumph or tragedy of founding a new fiefdom in a distant city, at the bidding of either the Sabbat or the Camarilla. Or Camarilla, however you'd like to pronounce it. We used to use, by the way, don't get caught up with the pronunciations, right? Like, it's basic. Have a seat there, Scarlet. Yeah. I know you want to walk all over the keyboard. You can't do that. We used to combine all the pronunciations so that if you were stateside, it was the Camarilla and the Sabbath, and if you were foreign from the old world, it was the Camarilla, with the double L's being pronounced like a Y. But this one we kind of combined together when we did Philadelphia, in the sense that the prince died and the player characters were the ones that had to step up. Yeah, life is cheap. Steal the Chronicle. Hell yeah. Masquerade. Yep. Better late than never. Yep. Masquerade, my favorite. Now, I'm going to say something that's a bit of a hot take, I guess, for Vampire the Masquerade, and that is ignore all of the setting material. Ignore it all. You don't need to abide by any of the meta story or the rumors or anything like that. The whole point of the story is to tell it about the players, and you can make this. I suggest making it as small as possible. So all of this global, like the Methuselahs will rise up and slay the young ones and all that, and forget all that. It's your story. You should tell it with as much background material as you'd like to have. Now, of course, as players get more powerful and you get into other storytelling, maybe you want to expand further. But really, I would just tell it about one city and the machinations that happen in that city or that location. Or it doesn't have to be a city, that location. Vampires are pretty horrible at travel, so... here's another one called that you can borrow against, the Free City. An ambitious council of anarchs declare a city to be free and open to kindred and kind alike, a place of peace where all can coexist. But can the dream work? Yeah. And this is the idea of, like, We're not going to listen to the man. We're going to live free, and anybody that tries to come in and establish rules, we're going to kick them out. And then, of course, what happens is uh, someone come some faction or whatever tries to move in, and because there's no rules, they kind of go like, well, there are no rules. uh, this type of story is a bit difficult to do. It's called Golconda, and Golconda is the idea that you can remain a vampire but rise above your bestial self. And while it's possible, it takes quite a bit of buy-in from players to get into that kind of thing, because everybody really needs to be on board. Because if you've got that one player that's a sociopath, it kind of doesn't work, where they're just like, I want to bathe in blood and of the innocent and stuff. And it's like, no, Gokanda is like finding your higher self, where you defeat the beast inside of you, where you want to that forces you mechanically in the game to desire blood and to fill yourself up. Angels of Mercy, Angels of Death is another chronicle. The characters rebel against the teachings of their sires, horrified at what they have become, and means by which they were embraced. And they become defiant and headstrong, and they're like, hell no, I'm not leading my life like that. The Tale of Two Cities. The characters are coterie or coterie, or a pack of vampires who decide to defect to the opposing, let's say, what do they call it? The opposing sect. The characters must somehow make their way to their former enemies, show their interests are genuine, and overcome whatever challenges are necessary to be accepted into the new sect. One of the great ways about doing something like that, where it's a tale of two cities, is the players have been lied to. And they've been under the thumb of their sires and elders, and the rule, and the players want to defect to the other side, which they feel maybe they're being respected or something. Great for like a city across a bay or a river or something like that. Courts of Crimson and Alabaster. Essentially, it's telling the story of a prince and the courts, and the players are members of or agents of those things, those roles, and this is just giving us basically best practices about like envision your role, paint a picture, past history of play of NPCs, and this is basically like, I would suggest players bring their own NPCs and fill the world out. Like, and we're going to get to some of the questions here that's going to really help out with that. Painting a picture, quirks. Everyone, mortal or kindred, has quirky habits accumulated over time. Choose a name. Try not to be silly. This is so common. Carefully chosen names enhance characters, while poor ones detract from the character image and can lessen the overall mood of the scenes in which the character appears. If we took the brawler from the example above, and I guess talking about a brawler, and named him Poindexter or Dick Johnson, the players would have a hard time getting past the name, much less appreciating the character and his plight. So true. So true. Weaknesses, age. How old is the character, especially if they're vampires, because they can be old, well past the age of many mortals. Personality, statistics. A lot of times with NPCs, you don't even need statistics, or even with other vampires, all you need are like their major stats, and that's it. Vampire is unique because you can get into preludes, whether you are dealing with the characters. Hey, what's going on? Hey, thank you very much for stopping by. Mm-mm-mm. Name of Spook says, version 5e has some solid player NPC rules. Cool. I don't have all of okay, so it might be confusing for new people to get into Vampire, because there's a first and second edition, Vampire the Masquerade, Vampire Requiem, There's a v20, which is a return to the original first edition as a 20th anniversary. There's Vampire 5th edition, which kind of takes parts of 1 and 2 and updates them to 5th edition. So yeah, but for the most part, if you ignore all the meta stuff, and I know there are people who know the meta information back and forth, but honestly, it gets in the way. That's me. That's me. Here we go. Spook says, I've always wanted to try playing a Salubi trying to reach Golconda. That's a difficult. It's cool. I mean, I would definitely go for it, but it's a little bit of an aside story in a game that has a lot of like intrigue and stuff that pulls you away from it and whatnot. But yeah. You mean I shouldn't name my prince Custer Ford? Custer Ford Oldenbutt? Yeah, yeah. Every that's naming conventions are always a problem with all of our role-playing games, right? You get that one player who like names their character something like off color, or and then it becomes the joke. Or you have an NPC that you named but you never said the name out loud, and then when you say the name out loud, they're like, you mean from that movie or that book? And then they start making fun. It's yeah. They, we see eye to eye on that one. I guarantee you that. You absolutely try to reach Wakanda. No, Golconda. Not a place, a destination of the spirit. So something unique about Vampire is the prelude, and the prelude is, who were you when you were immortal before you became embraced? Embracing is having your blood drained from you, and then you feeding on your sire, and that can have some pretty cool story elements to it. As to, it's not necessary to only have your prelude at the very beginning of the game. You can go back and revisit it. Maybe some players have, everyone has decided not to include their prelude, and later on information comes up about it. Maybe the player doesn't even remember what the prelude was about. But here are the questions and answers for the game that kind of lead us into like, okay, what kind of story do we want to tell? Where do we want to tell it? And give the player something to latch onto. A very important one is, how old are you? I know there's some players that want to be like the oldest as the old they can get, because I want to be really old. That sounds cool, but mechanically your character might not be reflected in their age. So I would suggest for players to not be much older than, say, like 30 to 50 years since they were embraced. Have some of their mortal people still stay alive. That's my personal opinion, no matter what version of the game you play. What was unique about your childhood is one. Prejudices can kind of linger from people's upbringing, especially dumb, ignorant things like classism, racism, sexism, and those things can kind of linger into the immortal world, where those things don't matter anymore, and you can get a lot of conflict involved in that. We played a game when I was still in Philly. When we were playing Vampire, we had characters who were still living out the age of slavery in the modern day, and the characters had like a lot of animosity with one another because some of them held on to and others had forgotten or no longer adhered to that lifestyle. And so there was a lot of revenge going on and stuff like that. We had a little bit of fun with it, and some revelations that were odd as well. How did you meet the others in your coterie or pack is pretty important. What kind of person were you? Not are you, but were you? Maybe you were a criminal, and now you're like more of a caregiver kind of person. Sorry. Excuse me. Personality changes can shift due to immortality. Where is your haven? One of the coolest havens. I didn't make this up. One of the coolest havens a player had was a water tower. You ever see those old classic water towers on top of office buildings? And a player over their 30 to 50 years of time being undead had emptied one out and made that their place. And I was like, that's kind of cool. Would climb up the ladder under the bottom of it, and instead of it being filled with water, it was like kind of a clubhouse or something. It's like, that's cool. I had a character whose haven was the upper room of a nightclub, and there were a bunch of like pillows and things around, and would fall asleep up there when the nightclub was closed. What was your first brush with the supernatural? And this doesn't necessarily mean it was your first brush with a vampire. Maybe a player was like psychic. My first wife played a vampire who had psychic abilities and was embraced. Maybe saw ghosts, or fought off werewolves, or was attacked by vampires weeks, months, years before they became embraced or something. Do you retain any connections to your mortal life? I think this one is more important than a little bit, even if the character is older than their family and friends, and their family and friends have died off. I think having a connection to their bloodline or something, or connection to mortals, is pretty important, because you can get some really great conflict in that. What are your habitual feeding grounds? Pure conflict right there. Where do you feed from? Who do you feed from? What part of the city are these people homeless and diseased and starving? Are they from the rich? Or do you feed from a cult? That kind of thing, because more likely than not, you're going to get other vampires in your community that want to steal from, feed from, invade your feeding place, or even find out who you're feeding from and use that against you. That's really cool. How did the embrace change you? Of course. Was it violent? Were you basically assaulted? Was it a willing thing? Was it something you were desiring, and you finally found the vampire who gave you a goblet to drink from? Or were you attacked in a dark alley and used and abused? Who was your sire, and how did he treat you? Do you even remember your sire? That kind of thing. And what motivates you? So these are great questions to ask, and you don't really need to answer them all at the first session. You can answer them along the way, which is actually kind of a cool thing. Into the Fire is basically like, okay, we got our generalization thing, but kind of like in the beginning of the thumbnail. What do you do? First, let me go to some of your comments here, because I know you guys are here. A goth club equals a grocery store. Time to go shopping. Yeah. It says nice elevator music for your soon-to-be sire to bite you in the elevator and turn you into a fellow kindred. Yeah, I was trying to find some music that was just like da-da-da, very mild, like, since we're talking about dark thematic themes, I thought it would be kind of cool to have like a very like passive in the background. You said, is that like Nirvana, the Salubri version of Enlightenment? Yes. So Golconda is Enlightenment. The Salubri are a sect of vampires who are trying to unlock it. They are known to have a third eye, and they are the ones whose ultimate goal is to achieve nirvana. And some call them a bloodline. Others claim that every vampire can become a salubri with a third eye, like kind of transform. Depends on your lore, but that's basically what it is. Best time I ever had was playing a KT from night one who woke up in a dumpster next to a corpse. Yep. So sometimes it's the most, I don't want to say mundane, like mundane, inane, throwaway kind of like beginnings for characters that are the best. It's like you said, playing by the way, a KT or caitiff is a vampire that does not belong or has been kicked out of every other bloodline, um, tribe, whatever. They've been they've been cast aside. Both the player of that character and the rest of society doesn't know who they belong to, or they've decided not to belong to anybody, right? And yeah, totally not. Best haven I had was an art gallery, okay, called the Speakeasy, that her sire owned in the 30s as a speakeasy. Okay, she kept a herd of the mentally ill. She medicated for loyalty. Totally not a cult. Yeah, I mean, and listen, we players of Vampire can get kind of dark, right? But that's the cool part, because a lot of I never had the like the oiled length ankle length trench coat and the black painted fingernails or anything like that, but our we still did a little bit of the gothic, like, how dark can we get? I'm gonna be darky dark, right? About the maybe that's a bad way of describing it, but you know what I mean, like dark concepts, dark imagery and whatnot. Okay, so we're getting into the fire, and into the fire is like, all right, we're going to get a bit more specific about what do we do. So here we have the Wild Ones. Actually, I'll leave this title up here a little bit. The Wild Ones. This is a classic coterie of neonate vampires who band together under a charismatic leader and defend their hunting grounds from all comers. Most such coteries are anarchs who are giving the finger to the prince, but this doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And this right here, very common, right? Like, we are badasses. We don't want to be told what to do. Get the hell away from our home. We live in a junkyard. We live, I don't know, in an apartment complex that's empty or something. Whatever. We live on a small island in a, in the confluence of 1 to 3, like 2 to 3 rivers or something, and there's an island in the middle of it, and that's where we live. That kind of thing. We drive around in a group of in a caravan, a group of like a half dozen RVs, things like that. Another one is by your command. This is one where the players maybe are the like modern day knights, samurai kind of thing. Like, here it says the characters are bound together at the behest of the prince or archbishop of the city, ostensibly to perform a specific task or responsibility. Sorry about that. But essentially, the characters are agents, law enforcers, bounty hunters, guardians, bodyguards, whatever, secret agents. There's someone above them, tells them what to do. They go out and try to keep the status quo. Now, mind you, this could also apply to a criminal organization where they work for criminals. But this one is really good, especially if the players all have a singular goal in mind. Like if they're all assassins, or they are all street gang members or something, and then you can come up with a meta leader above them to give them missions. Here's some other ones that kind of these all blend together, by the way. The Sire's Ready Hand, or Spirits of Like Mind, or the Outcasts. And again, these all blend together. Like the Sire's Ready Hand are a bunch of people pulled from different groups together to abide by a sire, maybe one vampire. Another common one is one vampire from each clan must be together to accomplish a goal, which is why players can be from different clans and have different personalities, but they are all under one umbrella because of maybe a singular mission statement or something like that. The Outcast is a really common one where the players are like ignored, thrown away, outcasts, considered not worthy of power, and they're running around trying to survive. Spirits of like mind, basically, the players might be together to learn magic or uncover the undead or something like that. And then here we have creating stories and a bunch of plots and some best practices like any plot should be able to have its central idea summed up in a few short sentences. And here's some examples. The coterie is sent to negotiate terms with a nearby prince, but the Nosferatu Primogen will attempt to capture them along the way. I'm not going to explain those. There's a lot of terminology for newbies. So Primogen, Justicars, Kindred, the Embrace. There's a bunch of slang. Whatever. Methuselahs, Antediluvians, the Jihad. Yeah, there's a lot of terminology. Or the characters are approached by a mysterious caitiff there's another one, who seeks their help to investigate some disappearances among the homeless herds. Or the characters Ductus makes his move to depose the current archbishop. In general, there's two major factions: the Camarilla, Camarilla, which is like a throwback to Italian organized crime, but made up of all the vampire clans. And then opposed to that are the archbishops and the Sabbat, the Sabbat are like the rebellion against the strict orders of the Camarilla's organized crime. And it's kind of set up like a church hierarchy. So there are people like archbishops and deacons that, even though it's pretty violent stuff. So yeah. See, yeah, a plot can just be like you are supposed to protect the mortal owner of a major business, but that person has many enemies, and that could be a plot. And then we have our conflict. You got to have some conflict. There's always conflict in Vampire. Just existing is conflict unto itself. So players need to understand that not making a choice is a choice. So as a vampire, if there's a lot of the idea that if you are not, there she goes. Her head was always hiding behind the thing. There's plenty of ideas that if you are not my friend, you're my enemy. And it's unfair, and it can lead to violence in Vampire, but that's basically what it's about. Oh man, you brought up a whole bunch of others. Thin Bloods, Kind, Whips, Harpies, Master of the Elysium. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're used to Vampire, you go, oh yeah, I get it. But if you're not, and you're a newbie into this game, man, it can kind of like, it can wash over you, and you're just like, I don't get it. And honestly, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing to not know the terminology, because you can absolutely play a vampire who's like, I don't get it. I don't understand what you're talking about. I don't get it. And that's really good. That's why I say it's a bit of a hot take to say, you know what? This game's been out well over 20 years with tons of novels and background material and a meta setting. And my thing is, ignore all of it. Ignore it all. Only draw in what you need. You don't want to add werewolves in there? Don't bother doing it. You don't want to add ghosts in there? Don't bother doing it. You don't want to add in all the clans? Maybe the players are only playing 3 of the clans. Just use those 3, at least in the beginning. Yeah, basically go play Vampire the Masquerade. You'll never stop world building. By the way, it's the game system that brought up the colon. Vampire : the Masquerade, Vampire : the Requiem, Werewolf : the Apocalypse, Mage : the Awakening. So that's where back in the day the old the constant colonization of games came from, and it became a little bit of a joke. Well, it's kind of the same thing as Dungeons and Dragons, right? The the rhyme, I mean, the same letter blank and blank is a trope in the tabletop community when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons. Like there's monsters and mazes, there's swords and sorcery, there's castles and crusades, things like that. Yeah. Shai says, "Isn't this a setting where the whole vampire hierarchy, authority structures, behind the scenes machinations are deliberately supposed to be mysterious?" Yes, like an onion. So some things you should absolutely know. You should absolutely know. Yeah, meat space, the identification. Yeah, exactly. So some structures the players will absolutely know right from the beginning. The idea of brand new vampires being brought before the Council of Vampires, known as the Primogen and the Prince, and the Prince slash Princess is the leader of the city, and this person has supposedly ultimate authority. Of course, that it's never true that way, right? Role player, the money train. Yeah. How many of us have had bookshelves where we've had to take the books off the shelf and turn the shelf over because it started to bow in the middle? And it's like, we've never played those games. Oh yeah. Hey, collecting shit is a TTRPG community pastime. You want to get down there, buddy? It's all right. Yeah, you can. It's all right. Okay, so conflict. Woo. What do we have here? All right, so we got some examples here. You don't, as a newbie, you don't need to use all of these. But as a storyteller, which is what the game master is in this game, having your players pick one or two, three of these is a good idea. And you don't need to hide it. Just say, okay, what kind of game do you want to play? Oh, I want to go up against so and so. So here's some examples. Trials of Tyranny. Power corrupts. All too often, the powerful princes and archbishops of a city abuse their authority for their own ends. Oh, you're about to fall. So, beating ass on powerful people who have all the influence and power and sit on thrones, of course, right? Small guy against the big guy. We have War of the Undead, where the Camarilla and the Sabbat represent different visions of the world, and the two are locked in a bitter battle for supremacy. While I don't mind this one, and you could have this in the background, right? Like the players are recruited, and the players are like, I don't have anything to do with that war. That's often a great motivation to go where the players are like, hell no, leave me alone. But this is happening in the background, which is a war of the undead, basically a war of vampire versus vampire. Terror of the wilds. Basically, the city is dangerous, but so is the wild outside the city. And the players may live on the cusp of the city and the outer areas, like the suburban rural regions, which is also kind of fun to play with as well. Over here on the left, the Clash of the Kindred, where vampires are ever at odds with one another, competing for hunting grounds, political influence, and more. And this is the absolute most common thing in the world. And players may have to be creative in their conflicts, right? Like where we did a series of how do we have a battle where murder killing the other side isn't the smartest thing to do. So some vampires might control the media, radio and television. Some vampires might literally have control the police or fire department or trash or plasma donation centers or the nonprofit organization that feeds the homeless. Heck, the motor pool, that snow removal, all those different types of organizations, the banking institutions, things like that. But we have Terror of the Wilds. Oh, I'm sorry, Weight of the Mask, Uh, Maintaining the masquerade is the one iron law of the Camarilla, one which even the most despotic prince would not dare to break. Sometimes action must be taken to keep the secrets of the kindred, and while the risks are great, the rewards are even greater. This one happens almost immediately because you're going to get players who want to just murder kill uh, average folks. And I always played it where I barely rolled dice against normies. I used to let players just ravage normal human beings the way whatever they wanted. No, barely any die rolls. If they have a die roll, it's probably going to be pretty easy. And then I just let the evidence fall where it may. So that maintaining the masquerade is important because there's inquisitors, there's police investigations, there might even be FBI and or military involved in some of those investigations. Medical institutions tend to, and the CDC for disease control might investigate many of those vampire murders that happen. Vampires are notorious for not getting sick, but passing on diseases, destruction, burning buildings down, gunfights, assaults and things like that can really spike up investigations and bring in maybe some of the more arcane investigators, like down and out hunters riding around in RVs with spikes and garlic and holy symbols and crossbows. You might get inquisitors from churches and religious institutions, things like that. There's feuds, the feuds of clans or packs, and this is where the players are like, whatever clan that they are attached to may draw them into a conflict they don't want to be part of. So the enemy of my enemy kind of thing. Or if you are from your Nosferatu or Ventru or Setite, and these are all bloodlines I'm talking about, Assamite or whatever, you may be a victim in a war that you didn't want to be part of. The onus of authority, again, fighting off authority from one group or another. Players could be drawn between two groups. The young anarchs, why don't you join us? The ones in authority that have all the rules, why don't you join us? And players could be in the middle. Hounds and hunters, yep. Certain mortal agencies suspect the existence of vampires and are determined to hunt them down. And that's another thing where the players play the monsters and they're fighting against it. And Soul of the Beast. The beast is real, raging and wearing away at every vampire's self-control. The battle against the monster within is central to every vampire's existence and is a universal conflict that should permeate every chronicle to some degree. Not a lot. Some people just like rolling buckets of dice. I hear you purring. Okay, you'll fall asleep. There you go, kitty. All right. And then we have the setting the mood. Examples of like loneliness, despair, that kind of stuff. It can be a little depressing if you don't add in some kind of hope. And then, of course, we talk about scenes. Scenes are like the beginning, middle, and end of an adventure for that session, that 2 to 5 hour session or whatever. We've got the hook, setting the stage. Over on the left, we have fear and anger as like mood, setting the mood. But you want to set the stage, opening scene, building the action, that kind of stuff. Another way to set the mood is to have unrelated things in the background that feel the way you want the scene to feel. So a bunch of angry people on the streets. There's angry politicians screaming at each other. There are neighbors that are always angry. There's the street vendor who just gets angry at the player characters. And that anger could permeate throughout the scenes so that the NPCs, that the players are like, hey, this person isn't normally angry, but they're angry today. And that anger could be like an actual arcane thing happening in the background. Or is it just part of this gothic world where people just act out act out a spite or something. Here's descriptions. Describe people, places, and activities in a way that engages all of your players' senses. It reminds you, it says, it isn't enough to say, after a few hours stalking the streets, you feed on a mortal leaving from work. Although, I don't know, I don't mind that to be too bad. Instead, say, the streets are rimmed with patches of dirty gray ice and knife-sharp December wind howls between tall buildings. You keep to the shadows, stalking the alleys and the silent parking garages, anywhere that a lone mortal might stray. You force your lungs to draw in great gusts of air, wincing at the reek of car exhaust and rotting trash, while you search for the telltale hint of warm flesh and blood. Hunger sharpens your senses, narrowing your focus to one single set of impressions: the sight, sound, and smell of your prey. Suddenly, you hear the hollow echo of footsteps, a single pair of feet crossing the concrete floor of a garage. The hunger claws at you as you start to run. A little purple prose, a little flowery, but whatever. Oh man. Talks about dialogue and 10 pieces of storytelling advice before we get out of here. But first, let me get to your comments because I can't see them. Here we go. Here we go. Hey, kitty. Magic the bankruptcy. Funny. Hey, Cam. Spook says anything supernatural versus a mortal should be the equivalent of a toddler going to town on a go-gurt. Yeah, a go-gurt. I'm just picturing grabbing them by the feet and just like squeezing them. It was like, ugh. That's a bad image. Anyway, but you get the point. Yeah. Oh man, just like, see, what you do is you twist the head off, boop, and then you, yeah. We used to have some fun with it. I mean, mind you, you got to get players that are willing to accept, like, this time we're not going to roll the dice. This other time we're just going to roll once to say what happened. This other time we're really going to get into it. Right? You have to have players that are willing to do that. But Shai says Assamites. Ander had a classic video on them. His least favorite clan by far. I kind of agree because they're too one-dimensional. Assassins cannot be trusted. No intrigue, no character depth. I think they tried many of these undeveloped clans over the years. They've tried to add more into them. But I do agree. And I think in your own home games, adding in a lot more intrigue is actually a lot better for you. Like I said, ignore the background bullshit of the vampire world. If something doesn't belong or you don't want it in there or it's a little too complicated, my thing is get rid of it. Completely get rid of it. Ignore the... Do you want to have a jihad where all the ancient vampires wake up? If you're like, I don't even understand why that would be a thing, I would just say completely ignore it. When Heathen says, "Ooh, I like the internal conflict. My character frenzied and murdered an NPC for another PC." Yep. If that game would have lasted longer, he'd have been a little messed up for having done murder. Yep. We once did. How we would do it is, we would, the little what do you call those? The leather cups that you roll dice in, and we would roll them and turn them upside down, leaving a cup on the dice, and we would describe how the player is hunting and then reveal the dice so that the player's like, oh, I'm going to seduce the young lady in the bookstore and take her into the back stacks, and then my vampiric aura will charm her, and I will turn her neck and just drain just a little bit of blood, but she's going to remember me. And then you pick up the dice and go, oh shit, maybe that's not what happened. And it's like, no, you thought that's what happened, but what really happened was blood splattered everywhere and people went screaming outside, right? And we had some fun with that. Like the the here's what I plan on doing: roll, 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 hide the dice, describe it, and then reveal what happened. So it was more like it's the split personality of it, like one part's the beast and one part's you, and the beast and you kind of don't get along and stuff. It's so funny. It's so, when I hear this, I mean, I'm down for description and mood, but there becomes a point where it just gets excessive. Yeah. we those of us that were around during the beginning heyday of Vampire, that did bring in, basically it doubled the TTRPG landscape. There was a lot of theater kids, let's just say, drama kings and queens that were in the game. It was just like, I get it, soliloquy, come on, speed it up, damn. I mean, I still love the game, and I still love the concept of like describing things with some purple prose, but you know, learn when to cut it. All right, so what are their 10 pieces of storytelling advice? So here are the do's, and let's see if we agree with them. And I think I agree with most. Involve the players whenever possible. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. If players want to play whatever kind of vampires they want to play, just embrace it. Involve the players whenever possible. One of the great things I love about this is, if you're making a city, let a player describe what that part of the city looks like. So if a player's like, oh, my character lives down in the sewers, and I'll be like, okay, well, how far do the sewers extend? Oh, they extend all over the city. Like, you can literally go down the sewers and go to any part of the city you want. And I go, okay, all right, that's cool. Is that where your haven is? Yeah, I live down in the sewers, and when I come up, I've got like an old cloak, but I kind of blend in with the homeless people and I'm like, cool, all right, then that exists, right? Another player may say, well, I'm the CEO of a powerful business, or my blood family has taken over the business, but I show up every now and again, and they've kept my secret as a vampire, and I feed upon my own family, or blah 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 blah, and just go, cool, all right, great. Mine lives under a bridge, and we're like, there's a river here? Oh yeah, there's a bridge. I live under the bridge. It's like my haven actually hangs up underneath the bridge, and there's a train that goes underneath the bridge as well, and I can jump on the train and travel with it or whatever. And you go, okay, cool. Get them involved, especially NPCs and other vampires. Get them involved. Second one, accommodate the player's expectations. It's their game too. You need to have some idea of what kind of game the players want to play before developing the chronicle. Exactly. So, and this is kind of the part of the yes and no of games that I think we don't talk about in role-playing games, where do you want this thing in there or don't you? Like, here's an example. In your vampiric city, do you want to have mortals that know about vampires and will hunt them down? And you can decide, no, this city doesn't have that. The people are so downtrodden and beaten down that they just look the other way. And you go, okay, well then, if that's our baseline, cool. Another player might be like, I don't mind having a fight against like SWAT teams, or like the Catholic Church has literal modern day Templar knights that have been hunting vampires since the age of the old days and whatnot. And hey, can we add in psychics and oracles into the world, or maybe even spellcasters, hedge mages or something? And if everyone says, yeah, we want to have that in there, add it in there. Here's some other examples. Do's, be prepared. Okay, yeah, be prepared. It can be a little daunting to not have like lists of names, lists of NPCs, especially when players want to run around the city and make left turns. Prioritize story over rules. This one always rubs people the wrong way, especially for the mathers and the rules lawyers. Your tale shouldn't get held back by the rules. You can make or break the rules as you see fit, if doing so enhances the story and makes it more enjoyable for the players. I think what rubs people the wrong way is the idea that if I'm the storyteller, I can change the rules willy-nilly, and that's actually not how it's done. It's more like, hey guys, do we want to have, do we want to do the roll to attack, roll for damage, roll for defense to soak, or do we just want to do a one and done, right? Um, and then if we agree to it, then we do the thing. Or I might say, I know you're about to grab the dice for your hunt because you're going to go on a blood hunt or hunt down a mortal, but can we just like hand wave it? And if the player goes, yeah, cool, that's cool, then I go, okay, roll a d10. This is how much blood you get on your blood hunt, but just tell me what happens, like where do you do it and the end result or something like that, stuff like that. Use description, dialogue, and action, of course. And what are some don'ts? Don't overuse stereotypes. I agree about the overuse, but I think stereotypes are good because there's a thing to break the stereotype. So so cardboard characters are good because then when you meet the character that's not cardboard, can be exciting, but I think you should have balance. So overuse, I agree with. Don't overuse, but I think you can use stereotypes. Don't forget the payoff. Like if the players work hard and make smart decisions, their character's success must be in proportion to the challenges they have faced, or they will feel cheated. I agree with that. In Vampire, the payoff isn't like Dungeons and Dragons, right? The payoff could be a connection with the police force, a connection. A player has a windfall from an investment or something. The character finds an ancient text from one of their ancestors. A player finds a arcane medallion or vestment or comb or mirror or something like that. Like, we used to give away stuff freely, but it always came with a cost. So our rule was you can always get something. In other words, instead of using the traditional like character advancement, like use points to do this thing, we would just say, oh, well, you just have this thing, but we always added a cost to it just to make things simple. So we had character advancement, like, oh, your strength goes up by 1 point or 2 points, or you learn a new discipline or something, but we always added something in there. You're being hunted, or whatever. You have a new addiction or vice or something, whatever. Let's see. Don't tell them everything. That one bothers me a little bit because secrets can kind of like secrets bother me. But okay, don't tell them everything. Don't abuse your power. I agree with that. Don't panic. I agree with that one as well. So those are kind of cool. But anyway, anything up here? Back up here, storytelling tips and techniques. And then we'll get out of here. I'll get to your comments and then we'll get out of here. Storytelling tips and techniques. Downtime. Impress upon the players in Vampire that they pretty much have to go to sleep during the day, and what transpires during their sleep. So then players may want to, say, play other ghouls or other agents that are their lackeys during the day. Things may happen overnight. I mean, overnight, that happens. So when they wake up at night, something has happened, like maybe there was a major fire, or construction started happening, or there's a festival, or a politician has come into the city and there's a lot extra police. We used to do things like that to crack down on drugs and whatnot, and we do things like that. It was basically the storyteller goes, I'm changing things in the world, and now you have to deal with the new obstacle. And our players, we were all made up of GMs, so we didn't mind that kind of thing. Like, oh, by the way, when you guys have been asleep during the day, the city has started this new campaign to try to get the homeless off the street and stop the drug problem. So, and then you're like, oh, okay, so now we have to deal with this particular issue. And so we really enjoyed that. I'm trying to see if there's anything else here. Oh, using flashbacks and dream sequences. So let me go back. Cutscenes, flashbacks, and dream sequences. Okay. Cutscenes. First, your comments. Do do do. I'm down for that. Spook says I let them find the answers to the secrets personally. Yep. Hell yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Here we go. Trust. Oh, there's your comments. Okay, here we go. There's a good screenshot. Drew says, "I'm a theater kid, so be careful what you say." Yep. I know about the whole like going on to your monologue and soliloquy. Listen, I'll give you one, maybe two during a game session. But listen, when you start hitting five of those damn things and you're making each one like a 17-minute monologue, come on now. Come on, Drew. Give me a break. No, but it's actually cool, especially if you um can incorporate other people into the dialogue. It's kind of cool if you get players that are like into that kind of thing. Yeah, about the third short story before the rules start is when I stopped paying attention. Third short story. That's hilarious. Oh, hey, Spook says, I like that dark background. A rich oligarch that feeds from his family and manipulates and threatens them into keeping his secret. Yeah, yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Your thrall brings you a person locked in your bathroom as a gift while you sleep. Yep. You know what? That's okay. There is a way to make very powerful I'll even say min-maxed characters their own worst enemy, because we used to do things like that when we were playing a game and a character had like a super high like charisma manipulation score, or something in their character like spiked up numerically above everyone else, that their power, their aura, their domination powers, their mind controls, or whatever their power they had would be their worst enemy. Yeah, look at what the cat drag did. Right. You'd be like, a player would be like, I'm going to mind control them and make them do what I want. Like, oh, okay. And now all of a sudden they have these sycophants like constantly bringing them stuff like, yes, master. I did it. Not, maybe not like that, but you get the point, right? Where people start doing things on their own, supposedly in the best for the advantage of the player, the character, the vampire, but they're like, I didn't want you to do that, and they're like, oh, so maybe I shouldn't. Hey, I've got the person locked in the bathroom. Maybe I shouldn't get you to the white panel van with the candy and dog leashes I have in there. Right? Oh, turn everybody into a thrall. Would that be a masquerade violation? Yeah, definitely. The we had a player who embraced the fact that they had like a lot of animalism powers, where they can control animals and see through their eyes and summon them and stuff. And when they slept, they couldn't help but summon animals, bats, rats, snakes, feral dogs and stuff like that, carrion birds, pigeons, and all, would just like unconsciously they would just keep gathering around the player. It was kind of funny, but it was kind of cool too. It's like, no, your power is still on. You literally have to try to turn it off. And everyone was like, ooh, that's cool. And he was like, yeah, that's great. Although everyone was eventually find out where this person was at, because when they slept at night, it was just like, man, in the richest part of town, why are there all these like rats and insects and maggots and stuff? Hey man, have a great one. Yeah, I'm holding you guys too long, so we're gonna hit this last part and then get out of here. Because I know I'm going, was it 20 minutes past my time? 15 minutes past time. So cutscenes. A cutscene is basically like none of the players are there, but you describe a thing that's happening. Or a cutscene can actually, if you mix it with a montage. So a montage can be like, my New Haven that I'm building down by the docks, and you can just do like a montage. Cutscenes where the players are not there is kind of cool, where you get like the heads of the clans are arguing with each other, or the police department is arguing with city services about handling the drug problem, or the CDC is coming in and talking about new ways to stop the spread of a disease or whatever. People are anemic because they have low iron in their blood. What's going on here? Uh, um, there's some strange people are having nightmares and they're imagining ghosts and people walking around in the dark and dark things, and they're claiming people are breaking into their homes. What's that about? We would do those cutscenes from like the news, um, progression of the city and news. Flashbacks really cool. We know Blades in the Dark has flashbacks literally as a mechanism. I suppose you could port it over into Vampire and all the other games by saying you have to expend, say, willpower instead of stress. Stress is a mechanism that you use in the Forged in the Dark games, or Power Blades in the Dark game itself. In this, I would use probably willpower and multiple points of willpower to flash back and say you did a thing. Dream sequences, we use these a lot. Some character, I mean, does a character have to have a power with a dream sequence? No, but you can get across some hints as to what's happening with the dream sequence. Um, Parallel stories are basically two or more players are not engaged in the same thing, but you can tell the progression. Like, for example, a I know, Kitty. An investigator or detective might be looking for a vampire, and that vampire player character might be like, "Oh, okay, um, they're on my heels, but I'm not scared yet." Right? And you could kind of tell the parallel story of maybe there's a family member that's been looking for their loved one, and that family member is becoming more obsessed with finding who that person is, but losing contact with their own life to get back their lost family member that's been embraced. And the players are like, oh man, I can't believe it. My character's mom is coming after me, and it's been 12 years and she's still trying to hunt me down. And now she's wearing combat boots and a backpack with a stake in it and mirror and a crossbow looking for me on the streets. you know Boot camp, getting the characters to learn more about vampire society. We played some of those in the beginning. That's kind of a cool idea. Hunting scenes again. How difficult do you want to do the hunting scenes? Yep, quick and dirty, a one roll method. Just roll the dice once and describe what happened. Um, or detailed, you can get like three-stage hunt. Three-stage hunt: the preparation, the execution, the aftermath. Preparation: where do you go? How do you prepare for it? How do you hunt? The execution: the actual attack itself, if it is an attack, or a seduction, or a bribery, or coercion, or something. And then the aftermath: what happens to the person and you when there's a blood splatter all over the place. Um, Poignant scenes, flashes of life, basically things from your mortal life versus your immortal life, and that can be pretty cool. And then lastly, the impact of hunger on player characters. Like, what has the player done, and what are they doing to keep the hunger at bay, if they have been able to do so? Uh, have they Were they trying to talk nicely to an NPC, but they basically raged out and broke the NPC's arm or something? Um, that kind of stuff. Did they go into a rage and destroy their own haven, and then they came back the next night and was like, oh, I forgot that I even did that. I didn't even realize I did that thing. Uh, and then narrative scenes. Maybe something goes wrong, and you tell the story of what went wrong, if at all. So, okay, that's it. Vampire. Thought I'd talk about it. Your comments, because you guys are the co-hosts of the show. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah. Woohoo, overtime extension. Yeah, I've got a doctor's appointment. I'm a person of a certain age, and so things like diabetes and high blood pressure, and today's a dental. Um, I have to go in for scans because I'm going to get dental implants. The whole thing. Heathen says, "Oh, I love complications like that. Small and not inherently threatening, but could be or could result in mild embarrassment or annoyance." And um, a best practice at all, right? Like sometimes you could twist the knob on it and make it hurt. Other times you can just ignore it. But yeah, just having those little complications like someone heard a noise, or there's a blood stain on the cuff of your shirt, or you're one of those vampires that can't be seen in mirrors and someone notices it, or a security guard took a look at a video and finds out that there's just a blur in the video and it should have been you, and now they realize, things like that. Yeah, one thing that often gets neglected and I get why, very often little complications or big ones might arise simply because vampires are real. Yeah. Yep. Aging out. Does your skin look cold? The mortals around might start questioning, like, like, I don't know. Family members that are distraught. People using and abusing your power. That rich business person that's like, oh, I know you're a vampire and I don't care. Right? Very often with supers, horrors, fantasy, we often ignore societal effects of mythical beings being real. I agree with you on that. Like, well, we can go into a lot of details about that. Maybe some of it can be psychological, like, are mortal beings, do people think the mortals are crazy? That person walked through a wall. No, they didn't. Stop it. I swear to you, I saw that thing, like that. The postman always gets dental paid for, right? Hey, we got some of the, I'm not going to lie, I have full health coverage, dental, eye care, physical coverage. Yes, I do. And it comes with a cost. I do pay for it, but I only pay 15% of the total cost, because those of us in the States, we don't have free health care of that type. So, yeah. Oh, I feel you on that. Glad you're keeping up your health. I really hope. Oh man, I hope you really keep your job and keep getting benefits and all that. Yeah. There's a whole. We can go do a whole postal dissertation, like the postal service. The post office is in our First Amendment of the Constitution, and people fail to realize you can't privatize free speech. You can't privatize the right to bear arms, and you can't privatize the establishment of postal roads and regulations. It is in the Constitution, and I can actually call it up. Yeah. Vampire businessmen reaching the end of your mortal life? I'll embrace you for a fee. Exactly, right? Yeah. Our free healthcare costs 15% of your gross income. Yeah, that's great. I know government jobs get good benefits. In a sane world, it's not the same at the moment. Yep. Yeah, man, it's crazy. Our union segue. Our union takes the point that we are the continuation of government and society. An example, even if all the power went out in the entire United States for months, people would still get their mail. The Postal Service does not own the mail. So two people who are literally want to discuss how to change the very fabric of the government we have can legally and supported by the government communicate with each other, and the postal service does not own that transaction. Every other digital source we use to communicate, email, text messaging, YouTube, Twitch, all of those services, Blue Sky, Mastodon, Discord, all of those things belong to other people. And we don't get to choose ultimately how Vampire the Postman. We don't get to choose how our text messages and email and photographs and documents are used, because we already know AI is being trained on it. But guess what? If you write a letter to somebody, or a contract, or mail a postcard, or whatever, we don't own it. I will never see what's in that. And it now, yes, you can make the argument, well, can't the postman be robbed of their stuff? Sure. But so could a hacker hack an email system and hack tens of millions of people? If someone robs the mailman, at most, they're going to get the people in the neighborhood, and that's it. Maybe a couple thousand, and that's it. It'll never go higher than that. Here to snack on desperate how. Yeah, but let me pull up the. Let's see. Postal. First. See if I can call this up. Let's see. Let's share this out. Here we go. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. AI overview. The First Amendment doesn't directly mention postal codes, but it does protect freedom of speech and press, which are relevant to the Postal Service's role in delivering mail, including publications. The Postal Clause in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 7 gives Congress the power to establish post offices and post roads, which is the foundation for the Postal Service. It is in the constitutional amendments. Wow, people don't understand. It is like they don't even see that part. It's like, wow. Yeah. Yeah, that is a good point. I know I'm giving YouTube info and permission to use that info just for interacting. I do it all the time, and I'm not saying that they're all evil about using our electronic communications. What I'm saying is that we are playing on someone else's schoolyard. Period. That's just a fact. So, well, theft is already illegal. Yep, I used to argue for privatizing everything. I no longer believe that. Glad I had that change of heart sooner than later. Well, there's an argument to be made for that, but here's another argument that our union and I believe in. So, wherever you live, your rights should not change within the territories of the United States. So, if you decide to live in bumfuck, why would you get less mail service than if you lived in a major city? We have the right to move and live wherever we want to, even in the outer reaches of Alaska. So, everyone should have the same. Yeah. The Ventru, get your data. Yeah, exactly. So you should be able to live wherever you want and get the same services. The problem that we have is that the people that live in the most distant regions, or barely distant regions, it costs a lot of money to get them their stuff. So all the major cities, all the money is put in one pot. Lastly, the post office pays for itself. No other government agency pays for itself. Everything costs money. It's not paid for. The post office actually earns money to pay for itself, and people forget that. Since 1970, the Postal Service has not gotten any financial assistance, and I hear that all the time. People are like, I pay your I'm a taxpayer. I pay your fees. And no, you don't. Well, not until 2022. Uh, yep, 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 yep. I remember those times where people would be in their cars throwing papers onto curbs. Yep. Yeah. Oh man. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. I'm off my soapbox. I put the soapbox down. Let's see if I can find this. Postal Reorganization Act of there it is of 1970. The Postal Reorganization Act of 1970, signed into law August 12, 1970, transformed the Post Office Department into the independent United States Postal Service, a government-owned corporation, and granted postal workers the right to collective bargaining. Financial independence. The USPS became a self-supporting entity, phasing out federal appropriations, and that was back in 1970. And people still today don't understand that. That's just my point. That's my point. Oh man. And where's some of the impact? Taxpayer subsidies were eliminated, saving taxpayers billions. Huh. Weird. Weird, huh? Huh? Hmm. What people know and what people don't know. Oh well. What if you're Ted Kaczynski? You guys are strange. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for being here this long. No need to stay any longer. Hell, if you've gotten here this long, you must be really bored. Especially if you're a noob. If you're not, whatever. Anyway, have a great day. Thank you very much for being part of this unscripted thing where we just get together and just talk about games and things of that nature. Yeah. We'll go into this. We may do a system where like the last 15 minutes of the show, I might get into like Obsidian Star, which you know what, I might even take you out with one of the outros for Obsidian Star. So anyway, guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. And I'll see thee tomorrow. Peace and tranquility. Bye.